This Green Goblin is the prime example on how not to adapt the Green Goblin. He is so bad, and not bad like evil, bad like bad, just bad. Green Goblin is Spider-Man's nemesis, Spider-Man's most notorious and infamous villain. We've had a plethora of Green Goblin adaptations, all differing in their own ways. Yet, a large majority of these are actually revered by fans, even though they're mostly all different.
Okay, wow. Just wow.
People love like all of them. Some adaptations do the long con, set up Green Goblin, really take their time with it. Others fall into the madness much quicker and he's a monster like almost immediately, right off rip. Others have it so that Harry becomes the Goblin. Some have it so that Norman becomes the Goblin. One awful one has Adrian Toomes become the Goblin, but we're not going to talk about that today. My personal favorites are the 90s Spectacular Spider-Man, 90s Animated, and Willem Dafoe. These guys are just so great. They're awesome at it, and yet they're all different.
You know how much I sacrificed?
I don't even hate the Ultimate Green Goblin's Goblin. I think he's pretty big and scary too. He's fun. He's not the greatest, but he's not bad. Have y'all seen the 60s Green Goblin? He is nothing like any of these other goblins we've just mentioned, that we just brought up. This man is goofy as all hell. Yet he is loved. Who doesn't love this guy's face? He's a goofball. But him? This man? He sucks. This guy's trash. Straight dog water. Buns, ass, booty butt cheeks, and not in the good kind either. We must discuss why the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Green Goblin is so bad and how it's a perfect example for how not to adapt the Green Goblin.
You guys all think you're so much better than me.
Oh, Meg, that is the least fancy thing I have ever heard.
We've said this already, but the Green Goblin is Spider-Man's greatest adversary, and it's for a multitude of reasons. First off, he's scary and intimidating. He can be short and not physically imposing, but he should still scare people. He doesn't need to be physically intimidating, but he definitely should still strike fear in people when you look at him. He could be skinny and small as long as he's destructive as hell. Bombs, explosions, lasers, all this stuff is great. I like it. The whole 9 yards. Give me all of it. As long as he's scary and intimidating people. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Goblin, however, quite literally exemplifies none of these. For starters, he doesn't wear a mask. Man just looks sick. Not sick cool, sick like he has jaundice or some other kind of disease. If he came to attack me and I looked up at him, I would genuinely be worried for this man's safety. I mean, seriously. If he came to rob me, I would literally be like, dude, do you need this money? Is it for a medical operation? Because I can see it. Take the hundo, buddy. You need it more than I do. Buddy, with a face like that, you're going to need this money way more than I ever will. Because you look like you're going to die in the next 5 minutes. This guy doesn't look scary at all. He looks like I want to help him. He looks like he needs somebody to take care of him. The explosions and the destructiveness is also severely lacking. We went from a goblin who damn near blew up Aunt May's whole house to a goblin who looks like he could have a heart attack any moment. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Goblin should have been way scarier, guys. He really should have been. And if you wanted to do the face thingy of being gross, it should still be scary. Again, this just looks like a diseased man who needs help. He does not look like a monster. He does not look like my enemy. Just looks sad. Looks like the ugly guy from Courage the Cowardly Dog. The Green Goblin should be well developed. Whether he has become Goblin right away or he slowly descends into the Goblin mantle, he deserves lots and lots of screen time. He needs it. Whether it's Harry or Norman, the character is still incredibly complicated and deep. The Goblin requires lots of setup. Give him good characterization. Show him his mania. This stuff has to be shown for it to be believable, at the very least. Otherwise, we just get a performance that falls flat. Giving him as much screen time as possible is the best play you can possibly go for. Look at Spider-Man, for example. As much as this story is a Spider-Man story, Willem Dafoe really was able to show off his acting chops. Sam Raimi damn near gave them the same amount of screen time, which honestly worked wonders for the character. Early on, we noticed that Norman's pompous and full of himself. Many people already don't like him. He's snobby, rich, smart, and desperate. And we see all this in the first 3 scenes he's in, which is the first 10 minutes of the film. Then he takes the Goblin serum and we just see him get worse and worse from there. And we get to see these moments happen. They're not just talked about happening, you know? Nobody has to just say oh yeah, this happened. No, we get to see Green Goblin actually be hated, you know? They give this character so much screen time in Spider-Man 1, and it's awesome. The dude is the ultimate hater.
A word to the not-so-wise about your little girlfriend. Do what you need to with her, then broom her fast.
Literally does all this to win his company back, and then when he does so, sees Spider-Man's loving life, doing a good job, and he's somebody should really kick that Spider-Man guy's ass. Kick him down a peg. Dog pretty much says it. Don't be a hero because a maniac like me might just come along and ruin it all. Like, what kind of motivation is that? A godlike one if you're the Green Goblin.
Spider-Man! This is why only fools are heroes. Because you never know when some lunatic will come along with the sadistic choice.
He does not have to do any of this, but he's crazy and he hates Spider-Man, so he's gonna. This is awesome in my opinion. It's like peak Green Goblin. Man just loves messing with Spider-Man. 90s Spider-Man has one of, if not the best Goblin-Spider-Man interactions when Norman finds out Spider-Man is Peter Parker. The entire dinner, Norman is just like messing with Peter and he's like constantly making these snide remarks. He's like weird comments and like this weird tone and stuff. Everyone around is like, what the heck is honestly happening between these guys? Some people might have thought they were lovers just by the way Norman was chatting. This makes Peter like super uneasy and creeped out, and like, I can't lie, I love it. This is like peak Goblin to me. He's supposed to make Spider-Man and Peter Parker feel uneasy.
Make sure it's only a moment, Pete. The party's just begun.
He's supposed to make them feel creeped out. They shouldn't feel comfortable around the Green Goblin. No one should. He's supposed to give you the skeevy weevies. This scene is so perfect, y'all. Y'all gotta watch more 90s if you haven't. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Goblin has none of the fun stuff. All the cool, dope, acrobatic, flying, cool tricks. No, he doesn't have any of that. The bombs and explosions, he doesn't have any of that. He really just doesn't have any of the fun stuff. Where are the big explosions? Why isn't Spider-Man constantly in fear of the Green Goblin? Where's the threat? The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Goblin shows up out of nowhere, kills Gwen, and he goes to prison. It's so fast, it's so jarring. Let the man have some fun in the role. Give the man some screen time. Show him being maniacal. Show him being evil. Show him have more of a vendetta with Peter. He believes Spider-Man is the direct cause of him becoming this monstrosity. Show him actually messing with Peter's life. He really thinks Peter ruined his life. Even though, he kind of technically saved him, he thinks Peter ruined it. He should be shown trying to actually ruin Peter's life, not actually just accomplishing it and then leaving. So unfulfilling. Really quickly, I just want to reiterate that Harry and Norman are both goblins in the comics. Harry is a godlike goblin. Harry being Goblin in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not why he failed, like many casuals will try and tell you. It's actually like the only good thing about him in my opinion. Harry's descent into Goblin is very hard to portray. So I gotta give Sony some props for trying to make Harry the Goblin, right? But it is a bit upsetting when the movie gets rid of like all of the cool storytelling elements that make Harry the Goblin cool and fun and an interesting character all around. Harry struggles with not only his father's love, or lack thereof, but he also struggles with drugs. This is like a really heavy topic. Many people know someone in their life or they themselves have been affected in some way by drug problems or issues. Putting this in a movie geared towards kids could be heavy, some may say. It might not work, a lot of people may think. But this argument literally holds no water. It loses all weight and credibility when a literal cartoon geared for kids shows Harry having a drug problem. Seriously, this is like crazy. Obviously they don't outright like call it a drug, but this is a phenomenal adaptation of the whole situation and the portrayal. It's crazy. This show's for kids. Harry has insecurities and struggles, and he turns to drugs to cope with them. This is heavy, and this is real. Like, this stuff actually happens in the real world. I'm not trying to say people born with diseases that are going to kill them aren't real, but this stuff happens to, like, your neighbor. This stuff could be your best friend. Like, this stuff happens to everybody. It's sad, man. It's sad. It's really sad. It's really heavy. But the live action, the one live action Harry Osborn Green Goblin we've ever gotten, doesn't even attempt to touch the topic. It's actually a complete narrative flip altogether that makes Harry way less flawed, and he's actually kind of more justifiable. He's kind of just trying to survive. In itself, this wouldn't be that bad of a motive if it was written better and it was given more screen time. I know I've been saying that a lot, but man, he had no screen time. But I also personally wouldn't have just liked this change all around, even if it was done well. Harry being flawed makes him a better character in my eyes. It makes him a very real character, like I said. People in real life aren't just 100% good or bad, they're big patches of gray. Harry was a big patch of gray. He's a very flawed person. Making Harry sick and trying to find a cure pretty much justifies all of his actions in trying to save himself. Death is scary. Someone wanting to survive and doing anything they can makes sense. But it doesn't make him real or relatable. Like, we're all gonna die one day, right? Yeah. But like, most people aren't born with a degenerative disease that's gonna kill them before they reach the age of 18. That's not something people really relate to. I really wish The Amazing Spider-Man 2 would have done Harry as a good but flawed friend. Man, I really wish. This was the opportunity. We only had one chance, it feels like. because now they don't even use Harry. Also, something else that bothers me about newer adaptations, Harry isn't Venom, he's Goblin. Like, if he's gonna be a villain, he's gonna be the Green Goblin. People, stop making him Venom. I don't know why this trend has continued for so long. It actually needs to stop right now. The only other good thing the Goblin does is kill Gwen Stacy. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty solid adaptation of Night of Gwen Stacy Died, right? Location differs, but like, I cried like a baby when Andrew was holding Emma and she was dead. Like, they sold this scene. I can't believe they actually even killed Gwen. I'm gonna be real. I mean, she was so loved. I know she dies in the comics. I even knew she died in the comics at this point, even though I was younger. I'd already read that comic, but it was just like, Sony would never do it. Sony doesn't really do anything that like happens in the comics and the movies, and then they actually killed her off. I was like 18 in the theaters, crying my eyes out. I'm never gonna forget it. I'm not even gonna front to you guys. It was bad. I was an emotional wreck. I gotta give respect to Sony for actually killing Gwen Stacy. That was crazy. I'm definitely not gonna give any respect to this Green Goblin though. I'm not. It's not gonna happen. He's supposed to be Peter's best friend, but we're like never seen him until the sequel movie, and everyone's just like,
who's this guy?
seriously, we've never seen him or heard of him or spoken of him before. Then he just shows up. His relationship with Peter feels super duper forced as well. Again, they haven't spoken to each other in years, and this is like a bratty, spoiled kid who was shipped across the boarding school. I personally don't even understand why they're friends or how this happened in the first place. In a lot of adaptations, Peter's like the super genius who helped Harry in class so they became friends. But this guy was shipped away at a very early age. I can't imagine he needed help in like pre-K, right? Like, that doesn't make sense. Was Peter helping him with his second grade homework? Somebody give me some answers. I'm not trying to act like they can't be friends, right? Like, obviously, they can still be friends just because somebody's rich and spoiled and a brat and the other one's broke and poor and down to earth. They can still be friends, right? Two people like that can still get along. But, like, they don't show it. And he doesn't have to be around for them to show it. The movie came out in 2014. Text messaging was the thing. They could have texted each other or shown each other texting. Just like a little tidbit. Something. If you're childhood best friends, you'd think you would have had a phone call. A phone call at least in the first movie. Something. But instead of him getting any bit of mentions or screen time in the first movie, he hardly gets any in the second one as well, and he plays second fiddle to Electro. Electro. Do you know how often I talk about this character Electro being lame, boring, and one note? And then Electro somehow got the limelight over Spider-Man's arch nemesis in the story about Spider-Man's arch nemesis killing Spider-Man's love interest? What the? Please, someone make it make sense to me. I personally don't like the arc for Electro. The dude's just like a bumbling, fumbling around fool. He just wants to be liked and accepted. Honestly, it's not a bad archetype, but it's like, what does his motivation become? To just become powerful and turn off all the lights? Or should I say turn off the dark? Get it? Get it? Alright, never mind. I don't really like Electro at all as a comic book character. I love Jamie Foxx, and I love Jamie Foxx's portrayal of Electro in No Way Home. But The Amazing Spider-Man 2 gave Electro so much screen time, like an incredible amount of screen time, to do nothing with it. This screen time should have gone to Green Goblin, like without question. Electro should be the secondary villain. There's no way you can actually try and convince me that Green Goblin should be a secondary villain behind Electro in a Spider-Man film. It doesn't make sense to me. It really does not. Especially when the Electro story they're going to run with is so bland and boring. He's just like I already said, a bumbling, fumbling, stumbling fool. I could get into like a billion different things about what's wrong with the character Electro, okay? Let's just finish out this video on why this is how you don't adapt the Green Goblin. We've already talked about a good amount of stuff so far. Not enough screen time. They don't flesh the character out enough. He's not scary or intimidating. The character has plenty of issues. Let's just close it out, though. This Goblin is a prime example of what not to do with the Green Goblin. Not intimidating. He's butt ugly, and not in a good way. He's got no screen time. He just jumps into being the Green Goblin. No build-up, really, either. The Green Goblin can carry a freaking solo movie. Sony, don't you dare. Nigh every other Green Goblin stands out and stands above the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Green Goblin. 60s Green Goblin is fun and goofy. He's not nearly as scary as the other ones. He does his own thing, but he's still loved. 90s Green Goblin gets hella respect. The slow burn setup for Norman to become Goblin, not to mention Harry as well becoming Goblin, and how it happens, this Goblin is loved. William Dafoe's Goblin is otherworldly, perfect at exemplifying the mania that Goblin goes through. This man is a freaking lunatic. This Goblin is loved. Spectacular Spider-Man Green Goblin did so much comic accurate stuff, it's insane. The Who's Who Goblin plotline, Harry and Norman both being goblins, Goblin shooting lasers out of his fingers, his voice acting goes insane.
So the whole wanting to destroy you and take over your empire thing wasn't clear?
This Goblin is loved. Ultimate freaking Spider-Man has a Green Goblin that's a monster. There aren't like any other goblins like this. And for some reason, he still somehow works. He's not many people's favorite, but he's still a character people enjoy. This character is such a multifaceted character and can be portrayed in such a multitude of ways. I love William Dafoe's maniacal and disturbing performance, but that's not the only way this role can be played. As we've seen in many other adaptations, the Green Goblin can be played many different ways and people are still going to love it. As long as you don't portray it like this. Dunk out. Peace.